Chapter 1. Born into Gold, Trapped in Marble. From the day he opened his eyes, Tunde Alad knew only one kind of life. He learned to walk on cold, shining marble floors. He learned to run through long corridors lined with expensive paintings. He learned to sit quietly in a dining room where the table was longer than some streets. His father, Chief Alad, was a man whose name opened doors before he arrived. He owned filling stations, shipping companies, estates in different cities, private hospitals, schools, and hotels. People on TV spoke about him with respect. Newspapers wrote about his donations. Politicians wanted to be seen with him. Inside the mansion, everyone walked quickly and spoke carefully. "Good morning, sir." "Yes, sir." "Right away, sir." Even when his father was not in the room, his presence was. As a child, Tunde didn't fully understand it. He just knew his life was different. He didn't walk to school. He didn't buy snacks from a roadside woman. He didn't squeeze into buses. A black SUV with tinted windows dropped him at the gate of a private school. Security guards opened the car door. Teachers adjusted their clothes when they saw him. "Good morning, young Alade." He hated that name. At break time, other students tried to be close to him. "Can I sit with you? Your dad is so rich. Is it true you have a swimming pool inside your house?" He smiled politely most days, but inside he was tired. He wanted someone to talk to him like a normal boy, not like a project, not like a ticket out of poverty. At 13, he went with his father to a hotel for a business meeting. As they drove in, people moved aside quickly. Security men saluted. Staff bowed. Inside, grown men in suits greeted his father with wide smiles and shining teeth. "Chief, you're welcome." "Chief, we are honored." "Chief, anything you need, just say it." Tunde stood slightly behind watching. When they entered the conference room, he saw something that stayed in his mind for years. His father smiled with his mouth, but his eyes looked tired. Later that night, as they sat in the sitting room, his father rested his head on the back of the sofa and closed his eyes briefly. "Daddy," Tunde asked, "why do people act like that around you?" His father chuckled. "Because money is loud, my son, and fear is louder." Tunde didn't understand fully, but he felt something heavy in those words. As he grew older, the weight on his shoulders increased. "Remember, one day all this will be yours," his father kept saying. "You must learn, watch, listen." By 16, he was attending board meetings. Men old enough to be his grandfather called him sir and presented reports. "Good afternoon, young master. Here are the numbers for last quarter. With your leadership, we can go far." He sat at the long table, staring at charts and percentages that meant nothing to him. One night he looked at himself in the mirror. Well-cut hair, perfect shirt, shiny shoes. But the boy inside the clothes felt like a stranger. He wanted to walk down a normal street. He wanted to enter a small shop and buy a bottle of drink without anyone whispering. He wanted to be "Guy, a beg shift," not "Young sir, please sit." By 18, his chest felt tight all the time. One evening, after another argument about taking responsibility, he stood on the balcony looking down at the city lights. Cars moved like insects. Horns sounded faintly. The world below looked so free. He whispered to himself, "If I stay here, I will disappear." That night, he made his decision. He packed a small bag, 2 jeans, 3 shirts, 1 hoodie, underwear, a pair of palm slippers. He took some cash he had been hiding. He removed the SIM card from his expensive phone, snapped it in 2, and left the phone on his bedside table. On a small piece of paper, he wrote, "I'm not running from you, I am running to myself. Yetunde." Before dawn, he walked out of the mansion. No guards followed. No driver noticed. The city outside was still sleepy. He boarded a bus like a normal person for the first time in his life. By the time the sun was fully up, the billionaire's son had vanished, leaving only questions and gossip behind. Chapter 2. The World He Tried to Escape. The rain came down sharply that night, hitting the rooftops with thunderous force. Amara arrived at Tunde's workshop, drenched, shivering, holding her slippers in her hand. Her landlord had thrown her belongings outside. Her salary had been delayed again. She had nowhere to sleep. Tunde didn't think twice. He led her to his small room behind the carpenter's shop. a room barely big enough for a bed and a shelf. He gave her a warm cloth, cooked noodles for her, and made sure she slept comfortably. That night changed something. Walls that Tunde had built around his heart began to crack. Days passed and they grew closer. They ate together, talked together, shared moments that felt like stolen treasure. But trouble waited around the corner. One morning as they rode to the market, a young boy suddenly ran across the road. Amara tried to brake, but the motorcycle skidded on sand, and the child fell, blood rushing down his forehead. Panic rose. The child cried weakly. Amara almost fainted. They rushed him to the nearest private hospital, but the nurses blocked the entrance. No deposit, no treatment. Hospital policy. Amara screamed at them. The boy's mother begged. Tunde clenched his fists, breathing hard from frustration. Then, he made a choice he had avoided for years. He stepped aside, removed a small phone he always kept hidden, dialed a number he had not used in a long time. The call lasted only 20 seconds. 5 minutes later, the hospital transformed. Doctors rushed out frantically. The child was taken into the emergency ward immediately. The hospital director himself arrived, apologizing over and over. Amara stared at Tunde like she was seeing him for the first time. "Tunde, who did you call? How did this happen?" Tunde swallowed hard. He didn't want this moment. He didn't want her eyes to change. He didn't want his peace ruined. But the truth was already crawling back into his life. That phone number belonged to the private line of his father, Chief Alade, the billionaire. And that call meant only one thing. They now knew where he was. They would come for him. He had awakened the world he tried so hard to escape. Chapter 3, The Billionaire's Son. 2 days later, the quiet town of Arua trembled. Black SUVs rolled into the streets, tinted windows, security details, men in black suits, walkie-talkies, heavy boots on dusty ground. People rushed outside in fear. Shops closed. Mothers pulled their children close. And then, from the biggest SUV, a tall, elderly man stepped out slowly. Chief Alade. His presence alone made the air heavy. He walked straight toward Tunde's workshop. Villagers whispered. Children stared. Amara stood frozen. "Tunde," the man said quietly, "you have hidden long enough." People gasped. Tunde froze. His father had found him. "You are my only son," Chief Alade continued. "Everything I built is yours. Your place is not in this dusty town. Your place is with your family." Tunde shook his head slowly. "I left because I wanted peace," he said, his voice trembling. "Your world suffocates me. I don't want the politics, the expectations, the fake friendships. I don't want a life where everyone watches me. I want to breathe. I want a simple life." The crowd held its breath. Chief Alade's voice softened. "Just come home for 1 week. 1 week only. Then decide." Amara watched, torn between fear and confusion. Tunde hesitated. 1 week, 7 days, a temporary return. Maybe it wouldn't destroy him. He agreed. But the moment he stepped into the mansion, he knew he had made a mistake. The marble floors sparkled like mirrors. Servants lined up and bowed. Expensive suits were placed in his room. Schedules were arranged. Business meetings were booked. Rich families brought their daughters to greet him. He felt like a prisoner in a golden cage. Worst of all, Amara visited only once. She saw the mansion. She saw the guards. She saw the wealthy girls being paraded before him. Her heart broke. She left quietly, believing she didn't belong in his world. Tunde tried to reach her, but guards blocked him each time. Everything around him tightened like a rope. And late at night, as he stood on the balcony looking over the city lights, one truth hit him with painful clarity. He had lost himself the moment he returned. Chapter 4. The man who walked in said, "And I have made my decision." Chief Alade's eyes narrowed. Tunde took a deep breath. "I am walking away," he said. "I don't want the companies. I don't want the estates. I don't want the billions. I want my peace. I want my freedom. I want my life back." Silence. His father stared at him like he was staring at a ghost. "No one walks away from billions," Chief Alade whispered. Tunde smiled sadly. "I am the first." He removed the luxury watch from his wrist, dropped the mansion keys on the table, returned the black credit card. signed away every claim to his father's empire. Then he hugged his father gently. "I love you," Tunde said, "but I cannot live a life that kills my soul." He walked out of the mansion with nothing but his clothes. The air outside felt different. Light, warm, free. He returned to Arawa on foot, walking along the dusty roads until the familiar town came into view. Amara was sweeping in front of her compound when she saw him. Her hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "You came back," she whispered. Tunde stepped closer. "I walked away from billions," he said softly, "but I didn't lose anything. I found myself, and I found the only kind of life that makes sense to me." Amara rushed into his arms, and Tunde felt something billions could never buy: peace. Later that evening, he reopened his small workshop. Villagers welcomed him with smiles and warm embraces. Amara sat beside him as he fixed a motorcycle, the sun setting behind them. He had no wealth, no company, no empire, but he had exactly what he wanted: a simple life, a woman he loved, and freedom that money could never match. Tunde became the first man who walked away from a fortune and found happiness in the dust. A man who proved that peace is richer than gold. The man who walked away from billions. Even after Tunde returned to Arawa and embraced his simple life again, the whispers in the town did not stop immediately. Some people wondered why a man would walk away from billions. Some said he was foolish. Some said he had lost his mind. But the older ones, the elders who had lived long enough to understand the weight of peace, nodded to themselves quietly. They knew. Peace was a kind of wealth too. The kind only the wise valued. But life wasn't perfect overnight. Tunde had to rebuild his workshop from scratch. During his time away, dust had gathered, tools had rusted, customers had drifted to other mechanics. His room behind the carpenter's shop needed repairs. But every day, Tunde worked with a quiet contentment that was rare and precious. And Amara stayed by his side. She helped him clean the workshop. She helped him arrange tools. She brought him food. She teased him the way she always used to. But now there was something softer in her eyes, something deeper. Not admiration, not surprise, not confusion, but respect and love. One afternoon, as the sun began to fall behind the hills, Tunde and Amara sat outside the workshop watching children chase themselves across the dusty road. For a moment, silence sat between them like a warm blanket. Then Amara spoke softly. "Tunde, do you miss it?" He turned to her. "Miss what?" "The mansion, the money, the power." Tunde smiled gently, not bitterly, not regretfully, but like someone who had finally learned the truth. "No," he said, "I don't miss anything from that life. I don't miss what wasn't real. I don't miss what never gave me peace." Amara looked down, playing with her fingers. "And do you regret coming back?" Tunde shook his head. "Coming back was the first decision I made with my whole heart." She breathed out, relief slipping across her face. But the real test of Tunde's decision came 2 weeks later. A letter arrived. Not from his father, but from the board of the largest company in the family empire. His father had fallen ill, and the board begged Tunde to return and take his rightful place. For hours he held the letter, staring at it, feeling its weight. Amara watched him quietly from the doorway. Finally, she came to sit beside him. "You don't have to run," she said softly, "and you don't have to go. You can choose." Tunde nodded slowly. For the first time in his life, he truly realized that his choice belonged only to him. He did not burn the letter. He did not throw it away. He simply folded it gently and kept it in a small tin box beside his bed. "It is my past," he said, "but not my future." With that one decision, everything inside him settled. His peace became firm. His identity became clear. His life became his own. Weeks turned into months. The workshop came alive again. Customers returned. People traveled from neighboring towns to have Tunde fix their engines. His quiet skill earned him deep respect. Amari eventually moved closer to him, helping him at the shop and spending evenings laughing as they cooked together or sat talking under the moonlight. And one calm evening, as the crickets sang softly, Tunde looked at her and asked a simple question. "Will you build this peaceful life with me?" Amara blinked, tears rising in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. There was no ring yet, no ceremony, no big celebration, just two hearts choosing peace over noise, love over wealth, truth over pressure, freedom over billions. A year later, word reached Tunde that his father was recovering slowly and had accepted his son's decision. Chief Alad sent only one short message. My son, may the life you chose bring you joy. Peace is wealth too. And for the first time since he left home as a teenager, Tunde felt the wound inside him truly close. He was no longer the boy running from a destiny he didn't want. He was no longer the man pretending to be someone else. He was simply himself, unashamed, unbothered, and finally whole. He didn't need gold. He didn't need power. He didn't need estates. He had peace. He had love. He had Amara. And he had a future he chose with his own hands. In the end, Tunde proved something the world rarely understands. A man who knows the worth of peace is richer than a man who owns 1,000 kingdoms. This was the final truth of the man who walked away from billions and never looked back. Night fell slowly over the estate, spreading its quiet shadows across the marble floors and tall pillars. The lights from the mansion glowed softly, but inside the walls the air trembled with silence. He had spent hours alone on the balcony, staring into the long driveway, thinking about the envelope, the letter, the truth. His father's words echoed in him. Son, if they cannot protect you, you must protect yourself. Don't let wealth choose the kind of man you become. He finally turned and walked inside. 1. Returned to the living room. His mother sat quietly on the sofa, wiping her face. She looked years older, yet she still carried the softness he remembered from childhood. Are you leaving again? She asked quietly. He didn't answer at first. His eyes traveled around the mansion. The gold-framed portraits, the polished marble staircase, the chandelier that never stopped shining. He sighed deeply. I didn't walk away because I hated this place, he said finally. I walked away because I didn't want to become like them. His mother lowered her head. 2. The family gather's footsteps echoed. The older relative entered again, this time with other family members behind him. Powerful uncles, cold-faced aunties, even distant cousins who only cared about the inheritance. So, the older relative said, folding his hands behind his back, have you made your decision? Everyone waited. His eyes scanned the faces, some curious, some angry, some greedy. I've made it, he said. The room held its breath. 3. The decision they didn't expect. He walked to the center of the room, standing directly under the chandelier. I don't want the money, he said calmly. Gasps filled the air. His older uncle stepped forward, shocked. Do you understand what you're refusing? Your father's empire, billions? He nodded. And that's exactly why I'm refusing it. Murmurs spread like fire. I don't want to live as a prisoner to money I did not earn, he continued. I don't want the enemies that come with this family. I don't want the lies. I want a life where I choose who I become. His words cut through the room like a blade. 4. The truth from his mother. His mother stood slowly, tears rising. Your father knew you would say this, she whispered. That's why he sent you away. He wanted you to grow with freedom, not fear. He looked at her, stunned. He never wanted the billions to ruin you like it ruined this family, she said. He hoped you would become better than all of us. For the first time, he saw pain and love in her eyes at the same time. 5. Walking away for the last time, he turned toward the door. Where will you go? His mother cried. He smiled gently. Back to my life. Back to the place where I was happy. He touched her hand. You can visit me anytime, he added softly. The relatives stood frozen, watching the man they expected to kneel. Simply walk past them. He opened the door. A cool night breeze swept inside. He stepped out, down the long marble steps, past the gold pillars, into the quiet night. 6. His father's final gift. Just as he reached the driveway, a security guard approached him quickly. Sir, your father left this too, the guard said, handing him a small key. What is it? A house, not a mansion. Just a place he hoped you'd find peace. He stared at the key. Simple, silver, without gold or diamonds. The kind of key his father knew he would value more than money. He whispered, "Thank you." 7. The final scene, a free man. A simple car waited at the gate, not a luxury SUV, just a small, clean car meant for a simple life. He entered, closed the door gently, and looked one last time at the glowing mansion behind him. Then he said the words that closed his destiny. "I choose my own path." The engine came alive. The gate opened, and the man who walked away from billions drove into a future shaped by his own choices. Night had already settled across the city when he reached the edge of the long tarred road. The simple car the guard gave him rolled quietly toward a smaller district, a peaceful place where people walked freely, where children ran, where nobody cared about wealth or inheritance. He had left the mansion behind, but his heart still trembled with the weight of everything he'd learned. His father, the letter, the truth, the family, the billions. He rolled down the window and let the breeze wash over him. For the first time in years, he breathed without fear. But destiny was not finished with him. 1. The small house at the edge of the city. After nearly an hour of driving, the GPS led him to a humble neighborhood. Quiet streets lined with trees, neat houses with low fences, and warm orange streetlights. The car slowed, then stopped. A small cream-colored bungalow stood before him. A garden, a wooden porch, a little chair outside, flowers planted neatly along the walkway. It looked nothing like the mansion. It looked like a home. He stepped out slowly, turning the key in his hand. His father's key. He walked toward the door and inserted it gently. Click. The lock opened. Inside, everything smelled fresh, clean, peaceful. The living room was simple. 2 sofas, a bookshelf, a small table with a lamp. No gold, no marble, no servants watching from corners, no portraits of ancestors. Just silence. He walked deeper inside, touching the walls with a strange emotion he couldn't express. Then he saw it, a framed photograph on the wall. His father smiling warmly, holding him as a child. The father he remembered only through fragments. He touched the frame gently. A note was taped beneath it. "For the day you become a man brave enough to choose your own life." His breath caught. His father had known. 2. A visit he didn't expect as he stood there. A soft knock echoed at the door. He froze. Another knock, gentler this time. He approached slowly and opened the door, and his heart shook. His mother stood there, still wearing the same dark wrapper from earlier, but her face was softer, warmer, relieved. "May I come in?" she asked in a trembling voice. He stepped aside silently. She walked in, looking around the house with red eyes. "I didn't know he left this for you," she whispered. "He hid many things, even from me." He swallowed. "Why did he leave everything to me?" She turned to him, eyes shining with emotion. "Because you were the only one who didn't want the money. You were the only one whose heart wasn't corrupted by it." She paused. "He wanted you to have what he never had, a peaceful life." He closed his eyes, overwhelmed. "I thought he abandoned me," he whispered. "No." His mother touched his cheek. "He protected you, from the family, from the politics, from the enemies. He raised you far away so you would grow into a man without blood on your hands." A tear slid down his face. For years he thought his father was cold, cruel, distant. But now, everything made sense. 3. A confession that changed everything. His mother sat on the sofa and sighed deeply. "There is something else you must know," she said quietly. He sat opposite her, heart thudding. "Your father did not die of natural causes." His breath caught. "What?" She nodded painfully. "He was poisoned." He leaned back, stunned. "For what reason?" "The inheritance," she whispered. "The empire. The control. The billions." The room felt colder. He stared at her, unable to speak. "Your father knew he was in danger? He left that house, this key, and that letter for you long before he died. He knew the family would fight for everything he built. and he knew you were the only one who must never be involved. So he sent me away. Yes, she whispered, to save your life. He looked around the small house, the photographs, the humble furniture, the quiet air, and he suddenly felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Everything he once believed was wrong. His father had not abandoned him. His father had saved him. 4. The final offer. His mother stood up and approached him. You can still claim everything, she said softly. You are the legal heir. You can take the company, the properties, the wealth. They cannot stop you. He looked at her carefully. Do you want me to? He asked. She shook her head immediately, tears forming again. I only want you alive. I only want you happy. Silence fell again. He walked to the window, staring out at the quiet street, the street of ordinary people who had no idea he was supposed to be a billionaire. He thought about the mansion, the gold, the servants, the power, the danger, the betrayal, his father's warning. He took a long breath. Then he turned to his mother. No, he said firmly. I don't want it. Her shoulders dropped in relief. You choose peace? She whispered. He nodded. I choose my life. 5. The man who walked away, the morning sun slowly rose over the neighborhood. Birds chirped. Children laughed outside. Neighbors greeted each other casually, unaware of the man standing quietly at his window. A man who could have ruled an empire but chose freedom instead. His mother stepped beside him. What will you do now? She asked softly. He smiled for the first time in years. I'll fix my life. I'll work. I'll build something small but honest. I'll live as a man who isn't owned by money. She nodded proudly. That is what your father wanted. He looked at the key in his hand. The small, simple key his father left behind. Not billions, not a company, not an empire, just peace. He closed his fist around it, and the story of the man who walked away from billions ended exactly where it was always meant to end, with freedom.